So an idea that me and my buddies had a lot when we would talk about My Hero Academia and Deku himself, right, would be that, hey, this kid's quirkless. He obviously, he's pretty smart. He obviously can deduce things many others probably couldn't really deduce. So what if he just decided to become a support hero? Yeah, a support hero, right? And I know that's not technically what he wanted, right? He wanted to be like All Might. He said it over and over again that he wanted to be a hero like All Might. When he got a chance to even speak to All Might, that's what he asked him. Hey, can I be a hero like you? But the thing is, in all reality, some people, like all of us, need to determine what they can and cannot do. I'm not saying you shouldn't strive for greatness. I'm not saying you shouldn't go for what you desire and what you can do, but some things are metrically and statistically impossible. Now, you can ask me right now, hey, would you have loved to play in the NFL? Would you have loved to do this or that? Of course, I think that would have been awesome. Realistically, as someone who I am right now, is it realistic at all? No, of course not. But I want to make it very clear, not saying you shouldn't strive for your dreams, but in the, idea of Izuku Midoriya, maybe he decided to start thinking outside the box just a little bit. What would have happened if Izuku Midoriya or Deku became a support hero? We know that he is extremely intelligent, guys, very intelligent, and I could see him doing a lot of different things to actually help other heroes or even help himself in this line of work. Now, before I continue on with this line of reasoning and this idea of Deku becoming a support hero, I want to say this. Obviously, welcome back. This was a bit of a different intro, but first I want to say I hope you guys enjoy the video. I make sure to, show some love to the video, of course, before we even get into it, at least fully. But also check the links in the description. I have a Discord down there, so please, if you want to check that out, come on and join the Discord and chat with some people, and we'll try to make it not super dead, even though that it was totally my fault that the server is dead. Now, with all that said, I want to jump right back into it because I just want to talk about what would have happened if Deku did become a support hero. Now, for starters, it would have to all start from when he was a kid, right? Deku crying, learning that he doesn't have a quirk, watching All Might save a ton of people, right? Initially, he's thinking to himself, you know what, I'm going to still do this, right? I'm still going to be All Might. I'm still going to be just like All Might. But obviously, we know in all reality, that's most likely not going to happen. Now, in this instance, it did happen, right? In the canon of My Hero Academia, he was able to, gain the power of All Might himself, which is awesome. But what if Izuku thought to himself, hey, there's a good chance that I'm not going to be able to carry hundreds of people out of burning buildings, so why not help others do what I want to do? This is where Izuku's mindset, maybe at a young age of around 6, 7, or 8 years old, begins to switch. He begins to think to himself, hey, I might not be able to become like All Might, but I can study these other heroes, I can help these other heroes, and I can become something even greater in terms of helping people massively. Maybe I can't save people out of a burning building while they're on the shoulders of myself, but maybe I can save people out of a burning building by having technology, by getting other equipment to other heroes, by helping other heroes become stronger and better. Maybe if I do all of those things, I can have the same impact as someone like All Might. And to make it clear, Izuku's not giving up on his dream. He is adapting his dream. He might have had a massive roadblock, but his idea of wanting to be like All Might can still be encapsulated if he could properly help others, right? In his mind, he's thinking, okay, I might not be able to help others the way I want to help them, but I can help them through other means. Now, I think it's going to be very difficult for Izuku to still become a support hero, but I think it's definitely plausible, right? You have Izuku who continues to study a ton about other heroes, learning about stuff that All Might has done, writing it all down, writing about what he thinks All Might could be doing better, what he thinks people like Endeavor could be doing better, what he thinks people like Mirako, Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, every single person, right? Writing it down, writing, and he's just taking note after note after note, and he continues to do this. Everybody looks at him as some sort of nerd, that he's kind of this nerdy kid, blah, 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 right? This useless Deku. That's what a lot of people would look at him as, because that's what Bakugo would look at him as for a long time. But this is when things change for Izuku Midoriya, because Izuku begins to work on something for Bakugo himself, creating something that Bakugo himself would never have thought of, and creating something very similar to the gauntlets that he would eventually have, but at the same time allows him to kind of, benefit from his explosions without hurting himself or, doing stuff like that. It's a very minor version of it because he's not, he doesn't have the equipment, he doesn't have, the riches to basically do these things, but he gives them to Bakugo, and Bakugo is astonished by this, thinking that this is amazing, that they're just little kids, maybe around 11, 10 years old at this point, and he gives him this equipment that now Bakugo begins using and benefiting from. And he realizes that Izuku, he's not some ordinary Deku. Izuku is not some useless kid. No. Izuku can really help him and others. Now, is it a little bit selfish of Bakugo to think this way because he is getting benefited from Izuku supporting him? Of course. But at the same time, this is where Bakugo actually begins to probably respect Izuku a little bit more. Izuku from the start wanted to be a hero like All Might. So did Bakugo. But Izuku tells Bakugo that that's not what he wants to be anymore. He wants to help people, yes, like All Might, but he's going to help them in a different way. He's going to help them in a totally different way. So as they grow up from around the age of 10 to about 15, they're actually somewhat friends. Izuku gives him ideas of how he can help his quirk, how his quirk could benefit him, and how, frankly, different things could actually help Bakugo. And that would include, other ways of fighting, maybe different fighting styles, maybe different ways of approaching fights, right? Don't be so rash to just rush in head first and stuff like that, helping Bakugo just kind of deduce those certain things. Now, on top of that, he continues to work with even random people, like these kids that maybe weren't necessarily friends of his. He's now assisting them, not in terms of equipment, but in terms of ways to actually utilize their quirk. He would literally sit there, write for hours about different people's quirks, and eventually he would kind of give them to a ton of these kids. And as the kids would kind of get this new information and learn about their quirks and kind of different strategies they could possibly use, to utilize their quirks, the word begins to get spread around. Teachers begin to hear about Izuku's mindset and his very strategical mind. And then on top of that, it begins to spread to smaller agencies, smaller kind of heroes. And these heroes begin to reach out to Izuku, basically studying their quirks and stuff like that. And Izuku decides this is fantastic, this is a great idea, and he begins to work with these people. And when he starts working with other heroes, smaller heroes that are on the up and up, and even heroes that were going to be eventual top heroes like, Mount Lady, someone like Kamui Woods, he gets in contact with them and he begins to actually tell them certain things that he believes his or their quirks could be used for, right? He begins to strategize on what that they can use them, hypothetical maybe armor that they could possibly kind of use, right? Or even hypothetical weapons they can use, maybe some rescue like equipment that would be beneficial to them. I mean, we know Kamui Woods is very agile, can kind of use his quirk as a Spider-Man-esque type of person. Maybe Izuku finds a way to enhance those things, and appropriate, approach the proper way for him to utilize his quirk, but also how he could utilize his quirk in a rescue fashion, in a actual fighting fashion, and in different ways like that. And it could obviously help them and help Izuku massively, right? These are all the things that Izuku could help other people with, and that would include some of the top future heroes, but this is where I think Izuku would have a little bit of issues. Yes, he's pretty good at coming up with ideas and coming up with, like, you know, these ideas of properly utilizing quirks or equipment that could use it, but in terms of support hero, it's going to be very difficult for him to get into UA on being a support hero, because at the end of the day, Izuku doesn't actually have his own equipment. You know, these equipment that maybe he could show off, and this armor he could show off, because he just, well, at the end of the day, lacks money. He lacks money. So what does he do? Well, he continues to try to network and push his ideas to other people, and eventually it would go to actually someone very interesting. This someone is a future student at UA, but more specifically has a very rich family by the name of Yaoyorozu. Now, this is where he would meet Momo Yaoyorozu for the first time, and her family. And her family's the more important kind of instance here, because at the end of the day, they are massively rich, and they decide to, well, actually have Izuku be someone that helps their daughter out. Now, this is in terms of, you know, like figuring out ideas for her quirk, maybe ideas how to manage it and stuff like that, in which Izuku already spitballs a ton of ideas and certain things that he believes that Momo could actually benefit from, giving them ideas of having certain foods that maybe be a higher calorie, maybe kind of a very compact but dense food, and he even comes up with a bit of a formula for this after like extensive research. But at the end of the day, it's a lot easier when he has a ton of funding, and that's what Momo Yaoyorozu's family is going to give him. Now, this is where he begins to really experiment, because he begins to work with Momo a little bit more with creating different things. Momo's able to literally make practically anything as long as she understands the structure and the structure behind it, right? She's able to create it. So in working with her, he's able to make crazy things. We're talking weaponry that could possibly benefit her, maybe allow her to kind of not expel a ton of energy all the time, maybe weaponry that would be more, you know, compact so she could utilize it, because we've seen her on multiple occasions maybe whip out cannons and stuff, but that's extremely inconvenient to a certain extent. So imagine making a more compact weaponry that would benefit her but would have somewhat the same impact as a massive cannon, right? And that's what Izuku would be working on. Maybe some sort of suit of armor, maybe some sort of attachment that she can utilize herself that could be on her hero suit and so on. And this is where he's able to even utilize some of this equipment and technology that would allow him to kind of be able to get into UA itself. Now, this equipment could be just simple hand blasters, right? Something that allows him to kind of merge energy or solar energy and create it into a powerful ray or a blast. And these are things that Izuku continues to work on. He even kind of emulates other heroes. I mean, he even decides to make gauntlets that spew kind of fire-like substance, very similar to someone like Endeavor, right? And he continues to do this, and he continues to kind of work with different technology that he feels could benefit him, but also benefit others. Now, this technology initially is just to get into UA high school, because this is really the only way he could see fit in doing so. But when he's about to basically try and get in, he actually is told that he has a recommendation letter from the Yaoyorozu family, in which this is beneficial to him, obviously. But he gets into UA after a couple tests and studies, and UA high school and the teachers and all of these people begin to realize that this kid isn't your typical support hero. He is actually someone a little bit different. He begins to unveil like everything that he's come up with, kind of these ideas that he has for different heroes and stuff like that. And well, let's just say a lot of these teachers begin to tell him to make sure that he always has this book under wraps, because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to lose this book, because, well, it could get really, really bad, right? This book has a lot of information. This book has a lot of things inside of it. And this book tells a lot of the weaknesses and also the strengths of other heroes. Now, he begins to kind of work with these other heroes that are currently there. People like Cementos, people like Midnight, people like Aizawa, right? Anybody you can possibly think of that is currently there, he begins to work with them. Now, Izuku works with these people and shows them kind of what he believes could benefit them, what he believes could help them, and just overall like what type of utility they could currently or truly use, and what could benefit them massively. Now, I will admit there'll be a time and a period of time where Izuku's ideas, maybe they're not the best ideas. Maybe they don't come out to be, maybe it's a bit of a failure of an idea, but at the same time, that's what he's going for. He wants to kind of learn and change and kind of do different things as they go about. And imagine if someone like Aizawa, who's already pretty capable in hand-to-hand combat, has more ability to close the distance, right? Has more ability to either close the distance or more ability to have more ranged-like attacks. And that's what Izuku is thinking about as well. Ranged-like attacks that aren't maybe as hard to actually hit other people. I mean, he has used gauntlets that can shoot beams to a certain extent. I mean, yeah, they're very, very, very basic. But imagine Aizawa having a long-ranged attack, maybe a gauntlet that can shoot out kind of like these shurikens or darts of some sort, so that maybe he can neutralize other people or villains from a longer distance, and so on. Or maybe even shoot out chains and kind of restrictive measures and so on. That his scarf really wouldn't be able to get to, at least at the moment of the fight, right? Now, he would continue on working with a person or people after people, and even the support course teacher, would even realize, like, yeah, maybe this kid is better suited off with breaking down kind of these hero quirks as much as possible. Yes, the technology, he's pretty good at it, but Mei Hatsume herself is extremely good at it and doesn't really need the assistance. All she really needs is the ideas, because if she gains all these ideas that Izuku has, they can be kind of the perfect pair in terms of being a support hero, or kind of be part of the support course, right? And at the end of the day, it's always going to benefit the heroes, and Izuku is going to get plenty of help, right? Nonetheless, like, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to have a lot of vouches for Izuku, so that he can have a job and help others and stuff like that, right? There's definitely going to be a spot for him. There's no world there isn't going to be a spot for him. So it's not like him not being in the forefront of the technology sector of it would be that big of a deal, right? It would actually be kind of okay. It wouldn't be too big of a deal that he's not in the forefront of the technology sector, or kind of being heavily in the technological invention type of like sphere. It'd be more beneficial if he actually just comes up with many different ideas for different heroes, and basically uses his studies and uses his breakdown of heroes all in Class 1A, all in Class 1B, to basically benefit the potential of these other these other students and these other future heroes. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of people in like, you know, class 1A, class 1B, I mean, that are extremely powerful, extremely strong, and frankly, if they were just better at martial arts, better in different aspects of mixed martial arts, they would be extremely better than they really are at any time, right? And Izuku would kind of give a portfolio to every single student, right? He would give a portfolio from students like Bakugo to even someone like Mina, right? He would write up everything. Now, I will say this, it would take a very long time for Izuku to break down and learn every single one of these quirks and how they exactly work. Because at the end of the day, well, it's a lot to study, right? But that's kind of his job as a support hero, at least kind of one of his main projects that would be always ongoing, right? He would go and actually hang out with Class 1A quite a bit in this reality, and he would work with people like Bakugo, like Kirishima, people like maybe Tokiyami, and find different ways to help them, right? Every single person in Class 1A, I'm not going to name every single person out, but every single person in Class 1A would benefit from this. I mean, someone like Yaoyorozu has already benefited from this because, well, her family's freaking rich and was able to get a hold of Izuku and help him out to a certain extent, right? So, of course, she's had some sort of benefit from Izuku, but every single person here, well, they're going to have beneficial, like, kind of notes and a portfolio that is going to be helpful. Because in my eyes, it's like, if you had someone like Kirishima who maybe he focused a little bit more on that martial arts aspect, right? He could see massive benefits. I mean, he already has a hardening like quirk. Imagine adding a little bit of agility and so on. That could massively benefit him. In terms of like your Todorokis and stuff, we know that it's a very basic kind of breakdown for Izuku. Izuku's going to say, hey, you got to use your fire side. Now, obviously, that's not going to be as easy, at least early on. But eventually, if Todoroki jumps over that boundary, then he can see massive benefits. Every single person, right? Even someone like Shinso, right? Shinso, who's not even in technically a hero course. Shinso, if actually breaking down and learning how to utilize martial arts and maybe they come up with this kind of voice inflection thing a little bit earlier, he could be a competitor for one of these classes so much sooner. I mean, Izuku, in my eyes, if he started leaning toward this support course type of hero, I mean, he would even benefit UA itself, right? I could see him saying like, hey, like these robot tests, they don't really make sense. They don't help others out, right? Unless you really change the robots in a specific way, it doesn't make sense, right? You have people that can go invisible, people that can control others through the act of speaking or answering a question, right? These people are not going to have the same kind of output or the same benefits when dealing with robots, right? All this shows is physical prowess. There's a reason why someone like Bakugo did so well. Bakugo did amazing on this robot test that destroying robots because his power is very destructive, right? Todoroki would have done the same thing. Very powerful, so he would have benefited massively. Now, even when Izuku would watch maybe the quirk assessment test, maybe the heroes versus villains. The heroes versus villains test was probably the most kind of clear-cut one, where it's basically telling you, hey, like these things are happening and this and you gotta come up with a formulaic plan. But even to a certain extent, if you're just stronger than these other people, there's a good chance that you're going to just make it through, right? Now, just to accelerate a little bit, because this is stuff that I want to talk about, how would Izuku affect the future battles of maybe your USJ, maybe your Hosu cities and stuff like that, right? Now, Izuku would be able to help. Now, how would he help? It would be in a totally different way. He'd be helping through, the use of technology, maybe helping Meihatsume come up with better technology for these other students. And on top of that, helping just maybe hone their skills with ideas that he brings to the forefront. Now, some of the issues I could see with this is you are lacking someone like Izuku with One for All to help out. That's number one. And there's a lot of things that could go wrong and will go wrong because he's not there. Now, number two is students and Class 1A, Class 1B, anybody actually listening to somebody who is quirkless. I know that sounds messed up, but that is the truth. Izuku is quirkless. Will they listen to him? Will they actually use his information to benefit themselves? That's a big unknown, right? Some of them probably would. Others probably wouldn't, because maybe they think, hey, I'm better than this guy. I have a quirk. He had to get through here via support course, right? So maybe they don't look at him the same way, but maybe others do, right? Maybe others see his information as constructive. Maybe they start kind of pushing forward the ideas that he has and they grow from it. And then I think eventually people would come around. But I do think on the earlier side of My Hero Academia, a lot of people would look at it like, hey, I'm not going to take this word for gospel. I'm not going to take this word that Izuku believes you should do this, this, and this. And I'm not going to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, because why should I? I mean, how does he know? I mean, he doesn't have a quirk like mine, so he doesn't know how it truly works, which is true, right? Izuku is like, in a way, a consultant, right? For your own quirk. He's going to give you ideas and you can choose to use them or not. Now, I can see Izuku being kind of hurt by these ideas in terms of some people maybe ignoring him, maybe saying, hey, I'm not going to do it. And that would be kind of their loss, because Izuku himself is very good at creating plans, creating these ideas and things that will benefit people massively. Now, the real question, and I think a lot of you are probably asking and wondering yourself, is do I think Izuku being a support hero would make it so, well, Shigaraki would end up winning? Well, there's a couple things that we have to think about here, right? Does Izuku have enough effect as a support hero, as someone who can make plans, kind of help other people out? Would that balance the scale as much as having Izuku have One for All? Well, yes and no. Because I say that yes and no for one main reason. Because if he doesn't get One for All, most likely Mirio would. And Mirio getting One for All would be massively bad for Mirio. Mirio would end up, well, kicking rocks, because Mirio has a quirk already. So he would be massively hurting himself by taking on that quirk, and he would end up probably passing sooner rather than later. But even with that said, with all the benefits that Izuku can give people like Mirio, like the Big Three, like the Class 1A and Class 1B, I think that would massively help them to the point where they may beat Shigaraki, and there's a good chance, in my opinion, that they do. But the thing is, you are also most likely and probably going to lose one of your top heroes in Mirio, and maybe a lot more people because of it, right? But at the same time, this, in my eyes, and at least in my opinion, would be the way Izuku becomes a support hero. He kind of takes on this funding earlier on, studies as much as possible, and would give massive benefits to a lot of people. But we know how much Izuku is important to the story of My Hero Academia as the user of One for All. So I would lean more to that fact of, I think that Izuku and the rest of Japan may be in a losing situation. But I do believe that Izuku, if he put and committed a lot of his time to becoming a support hero, I honestly think that he would come up with crazy and massive ideas that would help and benefit many people. People like maybe All Might. Maybe you have a more accelerated version of the All Might armor, or the All Might future armor that he eventually gets. Maybe even for Mirio. a version of kind of a suit that would allow Mirio to not be hurt by One For All as much. Maybe different equipment for Bakugo, for Momo, for Ochako, for Kirishima, and people like that. Even heroes alike, if he's able to benefit and help them, there's a good chance that Japan has a chance at stopping the invasion or the kind of eventual arrival of the League of Villains. I think there's a chance. But now with that said, this is a different style of What If. I'm not going to be necessarily approaching to a definite end. This is what I believe what would have happened, or what could have happened if Deku decided to become a support hero. Now, if you guys do enjoy this style of What If, where I'm kind of just ranting about different things, how I think he would approach different things, who would benefit, people would benefit, and stuff like that, and how I think the outcome would eventually kind of appear, please let me know. I actually really enjoy this style where it's more of a one-shot. I'm just ranting about certain things, maybe not the whole entirety of My Hero Academia, because in my opinion, there's a lot of things in My Hero that I wish would have gone differently, and maybe that's a video that I'll eventually do. But at the end of the day, I do wish My Hero Academia still was massively academia, and I think someone with, or having Deku as a support hero or become a support hero would have heavily leaned toward him being quote unquote somewhat academia, right? At least in terms of him working with students, him working with other teachers to show them different support items, different strategies and stuff like that. I think that version of My Hero Academia would have been pretty damn cool, even though I think My Hero as a whole isn't too bad by any means. But I do believe that this could have been a cool thing to see. I think Deku as a support hero would be freaking awesome. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say. What do you think would have happened if Deku did become a support hero? I'm not too sure if I'm going to or planning on making this an entire series, like, you know, later on. This is for a one shot. I'll probably put it as such. I'll probably call it a one shot, or maybe I won't. We'll see. I like just titling it like normal, but there probably is not going to be another part to this, and we're probably just going to leave it at this. So please leave your comments in the comment section below. What do you think? What do you think he could do if he becomes a support hero? How do you think he would do it? And all of the above, right? Everything that you could possibly think of, put it in the comment section below. If you have any other what if ideas that you would like to see me do in a more quicker succession, rant about how I think things would occur, and also how or what kind of powers or capabilities he could possibly have, please let me know. I kind of like this style, like I said. It won't be the permanent style, don't worry. I'll be doing the story stuff too, but I do like this quicker, more straightforward style. Now, if you guys like it, please leave suggestions for what you would like to see. Now, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And with all that said, I hope all of you have an amazing day. Later.